The Washington Capitals are doing the unthinkable. After being one of the worst teams to ever make the playoffs last season, they have completely retooled on the fly. They are doing it without their best player and captain, and they have found some hidden gems. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Hattrick HQ, but before we do, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to do yourself a favor, it's free. Hit that subscribe button and you get to stay up to date with everything going on in the NHL. But KC, one of the biggest storylines this year in the NHL is the Washington Capitals, the first place Washington Capitals after being one of the worst teams statistically to ever make the playoffs last year. And there's been a bit of a cultural reset there thanks to guys like Tom Wilson and obviously retooling on the fly. We're going to get into how their roster has been built up again this season and thanks to their goaltending as well. But what are your thoughts on the Washington Capitals before we really get into things so far this season? They have been, I don't even know if impressive is the word. They've been unbelievable.
Yeah, it's been unreal to see what the Washington Capitals have been doing this year because going into this season, a lot of people were saying, Ovi's coming towards the end of his career. He's trying to break that Gretzky record and, maybe this team won't make the playoffs. But if you look down through this roster that we're going to talk about later in this video, I mean, they have a lot of guys similar to like we were talking about with Florida yesterday, where they have a lot of guys who kind of just came to Washington, guys who were role players, good players for their teams, and now they're all gelling together and mixing well with each other, especially their decor. Their decor has looked phenomenal. I mean, was the last season they lost Dmitry Orlov. I was like, man, why are they doing this? But now seeing it all come together, this team looks dominant, and they look like a team who could definitely carry this on throughout the rest of the season and into the playoffs.
They actually look like, to me, a team that's going to get better in the playoffs just because of their play style this year. And it's crazy to think after what happened last season. I don't even think it was bad luck. They were truly not a great team. They kind of lucked into the playoffs. Statistically, like I mentioned off the top, they were like one of the worst teams to ever make the playoffs last year, which is pretty incredible. And they were off to a really hot start this season, 13-4-1, and they're now averaging almost 4 goals a game, and that is without the best or on pace to be the best goal scorer in history in Alex Ovechkin. And that's another topic for another video that's coming soon. That could end up coming this year as well. But it's been pretty impressive. And it's, with glue guys in the room, like Tom Wilson and, calling team meetings. They have a new coach in there, Spencer Carberry, who came from Toronto as well, who's implemented some new systems. So everything seems to be gelling at the right time. And it sounds like some of the guys are happy to come to the rink again. I mean, this is a quote from Tom Wilson. "We enjoy coming together and bearing down and finding ways to get out these tough wins." And I mean, even recently without their captain and Alex Ovechkin, they've been able to do that. They have been gutting out wins. So they are a really tough team to play against. I have to give credit where credit is due. And I mean, there's a couple guys we can kind of point to. Their cap situation, a little bit interesting, right? They don't have much cap space coming to the deadline. I mean, they're probably going to have to go into the playoffs with what they have, but I'm not sure that's necessarily a bad thing, right? Because they have been playing really well. Casey, what are you seeing? Is there anybody on this roster that is really standing out to you? Because there is one player I want to get to before we wrap up this video that I think has made the world of difference, but is there any one player or a couple players that are standing out to you?
Yeah, first, before we get into that, I gotta talk about Tom Wilson. I mean, this is a guy you hate to go up against, but you love to have on your team. I mean, this guy, like you said, he's the glue of that locker room. He got hit in the face with a puck. His face swole up like a balloon and still played the whole game. He is just an absolute beauty, and this is the main reason this team's playing so well because they have a great dynamic in this locker room. So where you get smoked in the face, your side of your face is 2 times the size, and you still want to go out there to battle with your boys. That is why this team is so successful. It's not because they have top-end talent like McDavid. They have a bunch of guys who are willing to have each other's back, and that's why they're winning. But getting the players who have really impressed me, Connor McMichael, I mean, what a guy. I mean, this guy has had a tremendous season for this Washington Capitals team coming out of nowhere. I mean, he made a name for himself in the World Juniors, and since then, he has had good seasons, but he hasn't really had a season where it's kind of made you go like, oh my God, this guy is something special. And that is exactly what he's doing this season for the Washington Capitals. I mean, playing a second line center for them right now, I do believe, or actually, was it he's not even center. Is he playing
No,
left wing,
yeah,
second
left
line,
wing
left
now.
wing? Yeah. And yeah, he's been great for this team so far, and really gelling with PLD, a guy who's kind of impressed me a lot because he's bounced around a lot, and he's really tried to find a home in the NHL, and seems like he's finally found one here and found some good footing. But yeah, guys like McMichael, Strome, who we're going to talk about in a bit, have really impressed me this year.
Yeah, and I wonder if getting PLD, I mean, say what you want about PLD, he's still a great hockey player, right? And he has bounced around a little bit. That much is true. But I wonder if getting him to play, in the center has allowed Connor McMichael to now move over to the wing and be unlocked a little bit. I wonder if that's a little bit of the key to success as well. But one guy I do want to focus on as well is Dylan Strome. He is finally in his NHL career playing like a number one center, what he was projected to be. He's a former third overall pick to the Arizona Coyotes, and he was always projected to be this player. But I feel like only this year, really, that I could say that he has finally come into his own. His game has finally translated to the NHL level. Yes, it took him a little while. He is 27 years old, but he has found it with the Washington Capitals, and he has an opportunity right now to play with Alex Ovechkin, obviously, when he comes back from injury. But he has been playing with Alex Ovechkin, and again, only 27 years old, so he still has a lot of runway here. He's just entering his prime now. He has 35 points in 27 games so far this season. Again, Washington has been rolling. He's been rolling. He's not really a guy who's going to score a ton of goals. He's more of a setup guy, a playmaker, a pure playmaker. But he plays in a lot of situations as well. He's been great on the power play. And yeah, he has been absolutely fantastic. So I wanted to highlight Dylan Strome because I think finally he has become the player that I think we all expected him to be at the start of his career, or at least grow into it, around the 2017 or 2018, right, seasons. But he has finally come into his own here. And when you look up and down the lineup, I'm pretty impressed by this too. And I want to touch on their goaltending before we wrap as well, and what you think of the goaltending. We have some stats to get into, but even without Ovechkin, this is a pretty impressive lineup to me. Protas, like I always knew, coming up from the OHL, I was like, this is a big body who should find success in the NHL. He's been fantastic so far this season. Obviously, McMichael has taken his game to a new level. PLD, say what you want about him, he is still a very good player and an effective player. So having him as your second line center is great. Dylan Strome playing like a first line center really lengthens your lineup. That's been great. Taylor Radish, he's been, a great role player as well. So the entire lineup, underrated. Mangiapane as well. He was great in Calgary. Now he's in Washington, right? So there's a lot to like there. They retooled their defense as well, signing Matt Waugh in the offseason. And obviously John Carlson continues to do his thing offensively. Rasmus Sandin. Jacob Chikrin was a great pickup for them in the offseason. So a lot of really, really good pieces that, sometimes you pick up these pieces and they don't gel together, but they are for the Washington Capitals. And one other piece that they picked up that I wanted to get into is from the Vegas Golden Knights. They made a trade to pick up goaltender Logan Thompson in the summer. He's put up a .913 so far. It looks like he is going to be their starter. He's given them really good minutes here this season. What do you see from the goaltending?
Yeah, he's really given them a sign of life back there. I mean, this is a goaltender that Washington fans have been crying out for a long time. They haven't really had a solid goaltender, in a while, since Braden Holtby. I would say that would be their last notable goaltender in my eyes. But Logan Thompson has really came in and played really, really good hockey for this team and has really kept them into a lot of games. You do have to give credit to the defense because they have really bailed him out a lot. From game to game basis as well. Like you said, a big pickup in Matt Raw, who has looked tremendous in that second pairing for them. But yeah, goaltending is a big thing in the NHL today, and you need to have a good goaltender to even have a look at getting into the playoffs. And Logan Thompson was a guy who got shadowed by Robin Lehner. He got shadowed by everybody down in Vegas, and then they were like, we kind of don't want him anymore. Let's ship him off. He goes into Washington where they're in dire need for goaltending. He finally gets that chance, and he's really ran with it and looked like a very, very solid netminder in the NHL.
Yeah, he strikes me as a type of goaltender that just needed a real opportunity, like a team to really believe in him and need him, right, for him to really come up into his own. And he's giving them really good numbers, as you can see here. Only lost 3 games so far this season, a .913. And then you go to their backup. Yes, you're looking at the save percentage and you're like an .897. That's not great. League average is only .901 right now. So he's giving giving them about league average goaltending, which is fine from your backup goaltender. And when your starter's playing like this, that's great. And again, like you mentioned, alluding to the defense, they really did some good retooling here, and they're pretty solid. And I don't know if it's Matt Waugh or Matt Roy at this point. Maybe that's just a Canadian coming out of me, but they are fantastic. They retooled on the fly, and the Washington Capitals have been something very special to watch so far this season. But if you haven't yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything NHL. And let us know in the comments what you think of the Washington Capitals and who has been their best player. They're relying on a lot of guys, and all of them are stepping up. It's been pretty impressive. But again, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything NHL.